So grateful to be here with Stephanie Kraft. She is amazing. We are here with Stephanie. Stephanie is a world-renowned intuitive healer and hypnotherapist. She communicates with the higher selves of her clients during healing sessions to bring about profound insights from the soul level. Her healing gift is like no other and helps people resolve issues on the spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical level. So happy to be here with Stephanie. Please help me welcome Stephanie. Thank you so much for coming here to this interview. And just would love to learn more about your journey in your work. And just wanted to get a feel for how was your life like before all of this kind of, spiritual awakening?
Okay, well, thank you, Odette. My life I was like what we would call asleep. I was living a very 3D life. I was more of an agnostic. I didn't really believe in anything outside of this realm, that you couldn't see, feel, touch, or know about. And well, I had turned that off on purpose. That's a long story, but when I was 10, there was a trauma that happened, and I was like, well, if this can happen, then there is no God. And I made a conscious decision to stop believing in God. That was the way my 10-year-old mind could cope with the situation. And then and so yeah, it was just kind of like a non-believer, didn't really understand why people believed in something like God, because like it was like a fantasy to me. So when I was 29, a friend of mine said, uh, would you like me to actually go into the story of how it shifted now?
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Whatever feels good for you. Yeah, absolutely.
Because right before that, it was just 3D. What you see is what you get. But then when I was 29, a friend of mine said, Stephanie, you should go see my psychic. And I thought, why would you waste your money on something fake? Like it's not real. And she said, no, no, really, you have to listen to my tape. This was in the year 2000. And so she let me borrow her cassette tape because this psychic recorded her session. And I took it home and I listened to it, and I was astounded because he was saying things about her that there's no way he could possibly have known. So I said, okay, fine, I'll go. And I went to this man, and I was a skeptic. And I told him, I said, I don't really know if I believe in this. So, I'm just going to like let you talk without my sharing much of anything. But that's how he works anyway. So he wasn't offended or anything. He said, I totally understand. So he went right into the reading, and he read my heart and soul as if he knew my soul. It really blasted me wide open. He told me, you are a healer and a teacher. And when he said that, it resonated something deep inside of me, because at the time I had been looking into getting a second master's degree in acupuncture or getting a PhD in psychoneuroimmunology, because that's the mind body connection. I already had a master's of science in health promotion, and I was very interested in the mind body connection, which is psychoneuroimmunology, really. But this friend of mine from graduate school had become an acupuncturist after our program. So I called him up and I said, I want to hear about this acupuncture. Would you advise going into it, because I'm really interested in the mind body connection? And he said, Stephanie, what acupuncture brings in is mind, body, spirit. And I knew when he said that, oh, this is that missing piece that I don't have yet, but this is what makes more sense because it's more holistic. And it was this year, 2000, that I was beginning to open up more. So when this psychic said, you're a healer and a teacher, I thought, wow, I am really looking into this field in a professional way and out of strong interest, because I really wanted to help people at a very deep, deep level. And I knew that. That was my calling. I want to help people at the deepest level possible. And so that night, after the psychic meeting with that psychic, because he knew things about me that nobody could have ever known, and he read my soul and heart so deeply, I was so astonished and so blown open that that night I just laid in bed trying to sleep the entire night. I didn't sleep at all the entire night. My eyes were closed, but with my eyes closed, I could see the universe. It was like something just busted wide open for me. And while I was laying there at night trying to sleep, it was just me seeing the universe the whole night. Something so big opened up in me, and I was ecstatic. And
So,
I was thinking,
so when you say you saw the whole universe, so you mean like your life within the universe, or like
I
the
was
actual
I
universe,
was seeing like the sky, the dark sky with the stars, like what we like galaxies and
the
things like.
galaxies? Wow.
And I was thinking to myself, if he could know those things, then there's so much more. There's
Right.
so much more out there
Right. Right.
that I didn't know about. I
Yeah.
didn't know. And
Yeah.
it opened me up so profoundly.
Yeah.
And that was at the beginning of 2000. And then it was like this cascade effect that happened thing after thing that year. I had massive transformative spiritual experiences throughout that year. And
Mhm.
then that year, my father was diagnosed with terminal cancer. I
Oh.
dropped everything, went home back
Mhm.
to Washington, D.C., where I'm from,
Mhm.
and dropped everything in my life to take care of him 24/7. He passed. And
Okay.
then I had another session with the
Well,
same
so before you go there, just I'm curious, when
yes,
you had the meeting with the psychic, and you said that you felt that he read your soul. When you
yes.
say he read your soul, like what did like how I'm trying to picture that in my head. Like
Right.
can you
It was
describe that?
right. It was when he said, "You're a teacher and a healer." It was like it penetrated, it rang a bell inside of me at the soul level of like, wow, I really am that. And, I think, yeah, there wasn't that much more to it that I remember.
Okay.
That was the
Like
key.
the
And
the
just
feeling
the
that you had.
fact that he could read my life, other
Okay.
things about my life, like you have these siblings, you have it was like little the tidbits
Uh-huh.
about my life that there's no way he could have known,
Right.
woke me up to the fact that there's so much more. If a person can know these things about
Yeah.
another, then that
Yeah.
means that there's an unseen realm that I had been denying.
Right.
And this opening continued. And actually, after my father passed, which he passed the same year,
Hmm. Hmm.
2000, the year 2000 in
Hmm.
December. So then we get over to like January or into 2001 or those months, early months of 2001, I had another session with him. He probably didn't remember me. This time it was over the phone, whereas the first time was in person. And this time he said, I had been planning to go to acupuncture school. And I didn't tell him that. He said something to me. He said, and I didn't believe in, remember, hadn't believed in anything, but I was just beginning to believe in God and maybe nothing else yet. And then he said, Stephanie, your angel has a message for you. And in that moment, I thought, oh my goodness, are angels real? Angels must be real because this guy is telling me my angel has a message for me. And he said, without my telling him anything, he said, your angel is saying, do not get another degree. What you end
Oh,
up doing comes from within you and you will be remembering it. And I took that as
gosh.
remembering it from my soul. And I knew right in that moment, drop the idea of going to acupuncture school because he told me I'm a healer. He's telling me now what you end up doing is going to come from within you and it will be like you are remembering it. And I knew he didn't say more than that, but I knew the healer from within will come out. And then I learned Reiki, which is energy healing. And there's a long story there to how the healing gift came, but that was the beginning of my awakening and story in this way.
Wow, that is so profound. Wow, I love it. So, so when you got the message, okay, I'm not going back to school, and what you will teach is from within. How did you feel? Did you feel like scared, like, oh my gosh, like, what am I supposed to teach? Like, how am I going to get that information? Like, what,
I Yeah, I figured it would come later. I wasn't scared. I had
okay,
faith and trust
yeah,
and knowing that I believed him because he was so accurate
uh-huh.
that, okay, I trust that. I'm going with it. I'll just let it go and just see where how life unfolds.
Wow, wow. That's amazing. So, okay, so then you're now learning about Reiki or something happened along those lines. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
So actually in 1997, I
Uh-huh.
was working in health promotion for a corporate America in the mid-Atlantic region of like DC and Baltimore and the, Maryland, DC, Virginia area. And I was putting on health fairs for companies. And one day I was working at one of these health fairs and I decided to take a break from my booth and walk around to see what was going on. And there was a woman standing there with just a table. And she said to me, "Would you like to experience Reiki?" And I said, what's that? And she said, "It's universal life force energy that comes down through me and out my hands." Well, she was speaking a different language from my language, and I didn't understand that. But I said, okay. So I sat down in her chair. She stood behind me and she placed her hands on my shoulders like this. And when she did that, her hands were not humanly possible hot. So hot that I thought, okay, when I get up from this chair, I'm going to look around for the radiator or the thermos where she heated up her hands first. And it felt really good. And so when she was finished, I stood up and I looked. Just had a table. And I said, "I'm looking for the radiator or the thermos where you heated up your hands. How did your hands get so hot?" Because there was nothing there. She said, "It's universal life force energy coming down through me and out my hands." And I was just like, okay. So I took Reiki, I put it in my back pocket for later because remember, it's 1997 and I'm not
Right,
awake yet. So
right.
my awakening happened in 2000. So fast forward to this time period you just asked about in 2001, I signed up for a Reiki class. I know my soul was guiding me, at this point our soul is always guiding us. It's just a matter of are we listening? And this is when I started to get in tune with my soul and listening to the guidance. So I found a Reiki teacher. I went to my class. It was just she and I, a one-on-one class. Uh, and when I did the practice session on her, I felt something in her wrist. I could feel the energy. And I said, "Do you have something going on in your wrist?" And she said, "I can't believe you picked up on that, Stephanie." Yes, I do. And so it gave me confirmation that I can actually feel things. And anyway, that's a whole, everybody who has studied Reiki, which there are a lot of people out there who have, understand that once we get opened to the energy healing, we begin to develop our gifts where we can feel the energy. So that was the beginning of that. But what happened in the subsequent years was that I started working as a Reiki practitioner and teacher in 2002, but I started to feel an energy being downloaded to me in the subsequent years where I would wake up in the morning with this energy flowing through my whole body, like a flowing, like a feeling. Like it was pretty intense. And every morning I'd wake up for it to and wait for it to finish. And it would always end up going on for a while and then finish. And then during the day, when I would be sitting in a chair like this, the energy would be coming in, spiraling throughout my whole body every single time.
Wait, so this was during the Reiki training?
This was in the years following the Reiki training. So I
I
became a Reiki
see.
master teacher in 2002. And
Okay.
then in the years that followed, this new energy was pulsing through me. And through those years, I had been told by various random people, not random, but like people I would be involved with, like spiritual teacher or a reading or a healer. And they all said to me, you are going to be bringing in a new healing technology. You're bringing in a new healing technology.
Wow.
This is what everybody was telling me. And when
Wow.
they told me that, the way I interpreted that was, I'm going to invent something through my mind of like a new healing method. And I just waited for that. But then when this new energy was pulsing through me all the time for a few years, something culminated, which was during sleep one night. It wasn't a dream, it was a spiritual experience or like a real experience in another dimension that I went somewhere and I was with these beings of light. I think there were only two of them, and they had put up the silhouette of a human body, and they were instructing me on how to heal the human body with energy healing. They were teaching me, and they gave me or let me know that I had this gift so that when I woke up that morning, I was like, wait a second, I have this new healing gift. And it dawned on me what all those people had told me, you are bringing in a new healing technology. And I realized, wait a second, I'm not going to create something from my mind. I'm not going to invent something. I have a gift that's been given and downloaded because I knew all those years I had this new energy coming in that I could feel. And then it culminated in these beings instructing me with the human body how to heal. And then waking up knowing it was almost like they gave it to me, but they didn't because it had been downloaded for those,
Yeah.
but it was like, now I know I have it. So then after that,
Wait,
I just,
so wait. I mean,
yes,
this is really juicy, right? We can't just pass on, They just downloaded this. Okay, let's get a little bit more detail here. So, how many beings were there?
there were two, and they felt
Two.
masculine, like
Masculine.
masculine healer teachers that were,
So what did they look like? Did they have names? I mean, do you
they
still
felt
communicate with them?
felt tall. No, it
No.
was, no, they felt tall and thin and light.
Colors? Any
Like
colors?
it feels like blue, but it wasn't that
Okay.
visual. I was more focused on the human silhouette. It was like a
Right.
screen, almost
A
like, you put
screen.
up how like they put up an X-ray, the
Yeah.
screen that
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
showing. It looked kind of like that, something that,
Hmm.
where it could be lit up, and there were lights on chakras of the human body, and they were teaching me how to heal with energy healing. And can I tell you exactly what they taught me? No, because like when I
Okay.
woke up, it was the details weren't there, but the knowing that I had been instructed was there, and the memory of what I'm sharing was there, but not, and not every intricate detail of the teaching, but it was more embedded into me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then, because I had been doing Reiki for a few years, and Reiki is something you turn on, I decided, don't turn Reiki on. Just put your hands on your client and do nothing, and
Oh,
just let the energy flow and see what happens. So I did that. And the
oh.
energy that flowed through me felt 1,000 times stronger than Reiki, meaning flowing through my
Whoa.
body to the client, vibrations, all kinds of new things started happening during sessions, like new things that are kind of weird.
Oh, so
But,
like what? Like just yeah.
well, for example, I
Yeah.
think this sound weird, but like let's say I would be holding someone's feet at the end of the massage table, holding their
Uh-huh.
feet to send healing,
Uh-huh.
or their ankles, say them holding there. Then I would just release and walk around maybe to the shoulders and put my hands there at the head, toward. walk to the edge of the table. And once I got there and put my hands, they would say, well, I can feel, they would say, I didn't know you were here because I can still feel you holding my ankles. They could.
Oh, wow.
So it happened so many times and it would surprise them because how could they be feeling my hands here when now I moved here?
Right.
It would happen over and over. But so other things like, oh, one of the biggest things too was that if they're lying on their back, I would slide my hand under, let's say, slide my hand under the small of the back to just do healing through their back.
Hmm.
Well, my hands are not moving under the weight of their body, and the massage table is very sturdy. And what would happen with my hands just still right there? Their body would start rocking like this. But this is every client.
Wow.
So I would have to let them know ahead of time, you're probably going to feel your body rocking. And their body is visually, you feel it, you see it, they feel it. It's not energetically rocking, it's real. But I'm not moving. So with every client, their body rocks. I don't
Wow.
know why, but it happens
Yeah.
with, and they feel it. And it's not on an uncomfortable feeling.
Hmm.
It's,
It's like a
well, I've
rocking.
never gotten to experience it, but
Yeah.
it looks very soothing.
Uh-huh.
And things, and then other sensation. So that was new. My hands being me bilocating or whatever was new. Other
When you
when
say bilocating,
I
oh,
mean hands are
they
here and then
feel that
I
it's over.
move
Right. Okay.
and my hands are still there. But
Yeah.
yes, that's what I
Right.
meant. And then things like my hands would vibrate out of control with very intense energy coming in for them, or my hands would feel just so incredibly hot. Actually, I never feel the heat. They tell me because it's not me, it's not my energy, it's coming
It's
through me
through
and
you.
to them, and they
Right.
tell me not burning hot in terms of uncomfortable, but that really hot heating pad feeling that's very comforting. But they would tell me it's so, so, so hot. Sometimes cold if that area of the body needs like ice cold. I don't feel the temperature change, but they do. And it changes with whatever they need. But the other part of the intensity change from doing Reiki to this new modality was the energy that I would feel flowing through my body. When I would begin a healing session, the energy would start coming through my body, and I could feel it swirling and just very intense, a lot of energy, and then they could feel it in their body. And then there are all kinds of sensations and things that are happening during sessions. But then also, I would be able to channel their higher self or even God sometimes with certain clients or people like Wayne Dyer. It depends on the person. If like I only had one client who absolutely loved Wayne Dyer. So she would always say, can you please channel Wayne Dyer? But that's just an example of things that can happen in a session.
So you channel then as
Yes,
well.
I channel everybody's higher self during
Okay.
sessions.
Okay.
I just let the higher self speak through me as it like I'm talking now, or I'll just say, okay, your higher self is saying XYZ. It's the same idea. It doesn't feel that different, but I tell them this is your higher self speaking, for example,
Hmm.
so they know where
Yeah.
it's from.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I was gonna ask you, so when you're doing the healing through the hands, like I guess in person you would feel it more on your body, and I guess can you do something like that in Zoom, or is that
Okay,
possible? Or
that's a
what is that? Yeah.
right. That's a great question
Yeah.
because my sessions are 100% over the phone now. And
Oh,
it's
okay.
all the same. I mean, obviously not the same
Yeah,
sensation, but
right.
the healing is as effective as it is in person. Yeah, I changed how I worked to over the phone with everybody, and it's still as profound. People still feel things in their body. I'm an intuitive and empathic and healer, so I feel things in my body. So, for example, even today when I was doing a session earlier, I said, I can pinpoint, very specific. Do you get headaches? Like right here in this section. Like I'll feel exactly what's going on in the other person's
Okay.
body in my body, so I can tell them
Okay.
things like that. So the phone sessions are profound and yeah,
Wow.
amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah. And
Amazing,
it's
amazing.
amazing that it works that way too.
Well,
There's
it kind of goes into similar to when you saw the psychic. He tapped into a field that just he saw your soul in that field, and you're tapping into that field for the other person, regardless of time and space,
That's
right?
exactly what it is. And it feels more, I feel that I can tap more deeply into their soul in a phone session because in person, there's the distraction of feeling so much
Mm.
energy and what's happening in my hands, what's happening in their body. So I'm so
Right.
focused on the physical.
A lot more
But in a
stillness.
phone session, I'm just going straight to the soul. And
Right.
I have all the clairs, so the clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance. So I'm telling them
Right.
events from their, I see, you're 5 years old and this and that, or your relationship with your parents, or your grandmother is coming through, or you're like who's passed. Like I'm bringing the healing and the information from all these levels that are so profound that it's a little bit harder to access in person.
Right.
I still do it, but I still did it that way, but it feels so much easier because all I do is I sit there with my eyes
Right.
closed, tune in, and boom,
Yeah.
we're right there.
That's
And there's that
amazing. And
feeling.
I
Yeah.
guess with Zoom, you would have the technology barrier too, and you gotta,
And
and
I
the
cannot do
visual and all of that stuff.
right. People
Okay.
want Zoom, they want video, and I don't do
Yeah.
that because
Yeah. Yeah.
distraction.
That's too much. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's amazing. I love it. So, just a couple of questions for you, for the audience who may want to learn more about, how to access and connect with their higher selves. Can people learn this? I mean, obviously, this was downloaded to you, so some people may be thinking, okay, well, I haven't been downloading anything. How can I, step into that, path?
Right. So this is one of the most common questions that people ask me. I want to connect with my higher self. And so I talk people through it a lot, which is basically we all have that inner voice. It's hard to discern because we have our mind and our ego and our personality as something that's different from our soul or our higher self. And so, how do we discern? And it takes practice. And
Yeah.
we all go through this. Sometimes we think we have this experience where we think something, oh, I should do that. And then we don't listen and we do something else. And then the bad thing happens and we say, I knew it. I should have listened. Everybody has had that experience. So it's about tuning into what does that voice sound like? And how is it different from my mind or um, my ego? And so even including me, it took years. I wasn't downloaded with this gift. I don't think it took me years to get better at this. And so times when our higher self is speaking to us more loudly, even though there's no volume to it, could be when we're waking up when we're waking up in the morning, right in that hypnagogic state, when we're in the in-between state, when we know now we're waking up, we become aware we're waking up. In that moment, we can communicate with our higher self. Actually, our higher self is already communicating with us then, and we can listen. So I always tell people when you become aware you're waking up, listen. What are the thoughts? What is being spoken to you? What is streaming through your mind at that very moment? Become the observer of it. Pay attention. And your higher self will know that you're now practicing this and will start to bring messages in more clearly then. So you can even tell your higher self is the same thing. The terms are interchangeable. You can just say, okay, I'm going to start paying attention to you. Give me messages when I'm waking up. And so that's one way to practice it. Other times of the day that we're also in a hypnotic state, we all go into a hypnotic state throughout the day. It's just a slower brainwave rate than being consciously aware. And sleep is a slower brainwave rate. So a hypnotic state is in between that. It's a bit slower. than that full active conscious state that like what we're in right now.
Right.
So those other times are when we're driving, when we're taking a shower, when we're walking, when we're washing dishes. We automatically get into that zone where our subconscious mind becomes more available and we start having this different stream of consciousness that's just flowing. And so I tell people, become aware. Don't become aware in the beginning of your shower, but like midway through, don't time it, but just after a while, become aware. What are the thoughts that are streaming through? This is your higher self talking to you. Same thing with driving. It's these repetitive ideas and thoughts. I don't mean repetitive coming from the anxious mind or the overthinker or the worrier. I'm talking about that quiet voice.
So I just find that it's interesting because sometimes we have these voices or, like messages that like you said are quiet, more peaceful, you can feel the peace. But then we have other messages that come in and it's not like we can't discern.
Yes.
Is that ego speaking or is that, higher self speaking? Like, how can people distinguish between the two?
Right. And this can take years to practice the discernment. One way could be writing. So you could write the question, ask your soul to
Mhm.
connect with you and write something down and then listen for the answer and just write as you hear. Just write,
Mhm.
write, write. It's not, I mean, people can do automatic writing where I can't do automatic writing.
Right.
I've never been able to yet, but
Yeah.
it's not where you're being taken over and it's being written for you. It's more that you're listening as you write what you're hearing and practicing that is your soul will come through and
Okay.
give you the guidance.
Yeah.
And it's the when there's a difference with when you're forcibly thinking something
Hmm.
versus listening. And,
Yeah.
and so in the
Yeah.
shower, the walking, the driving, the washing the dishes, those times
Mhm.
when you aren't purposefully thinking about something and it's just you're in the flow state, it's
Yeah.
an actual brainwave rate,
Yeah.
that's when your soul is talking to you. So
Okay.
when it's your own mind, there can be more worrying, wondering, pondering, thinking, analyzing. But when it's your higher self coming through, it's more of a silent, gentle messages that
Mhm.
come in, could be visual too. And I'll give
Yeah.
you an example. The other day,
Okay.
I didn't know what to do about a certain situation.
Hmm.
And as I was waking up that morning, I said to my higher self, what should I do? And immediately they told me and showed me what to do like that.
Oh,
And I
I'm gonna
said,
do that. I'm gonna do that every morning.
yes,
What should I do about this
what should I
situation?
do? And I got the message.
Okay. I
Yeah,
like that. I do a lot of meditation. And so for me, when I'm meditating, it's important for me just to kind of clear all the thoughts. Not clear them, but allow the thoughts to kind of come in and out and focus on just being. And that's where, for me, I kind of touch base with kind of my higher self or that part of me that really is the all-knowing. And
yes.
so that's why I wanted to ask you about the distinction of those messages because sometimes even when I'm in those states, I get a message, and it's like, okay, I know that that's not just a regular thought; it's an actual message.
Right.
But it's like this feeling that I
It's a
have.
feeling.
It's a
Right.
yeah,
And another thing that people can do is tune into the heart
yeah,
because the
like
mind is so active and the mind
yes,
is just trying to keep us safe. So it'll
right,
think of the worst case scenarios to protect us,
yes,
right?
right,
And if we have too many anxious thoughts or overthinking, what we can do is imagine your thoughts are swirling around. You know how water goes down a drain like that? Well, I would say imagine your thoughts are swirling around and then draining down into your heart. So once you move it down, this is where we feel. Where we feel, we know. In the mind, we
Mhm.
cannot figure anything out. We
Yeah.
really can't.
Yeah, I
But
know.
when we let it shift into the heart and we feel,
Right. Yeah.
we're going to process emotions there and we're going to process information. And then
Yeah.
we're going to know. Same with the gut. It's in the body that we can feel and know. We
Yeah.
have neural cells, which are brain cells in the heart. We have neural cells in the stomach, in the digestive system. So we know in our body. We don't know in our mind. We try to figure things out, but like I said, we
Yeah.
just can't figure it
Yeah.
out. We
Right.
have to
Yeah.
let it come in to
Hmm.
process. And when we get into the body and we feel through the heart and we feel through the gut, that's our soul talking to us.
Yeah. So would you say that that is how maybe some people, because right now there's just so much chaos and people don't know how to even trust any messages coming through, you know?
Right.
I mean, because there's just too much information.
Yes.
So would you say maybe that that is a way that people can learn how to trust themselves? Like what's your take on how they can, learn to just trust, let go, you know?
I really do think it is about feeling the heart,
Mm,
feeling the body,
mm,
feeling the
mm,
gut instinct. Oh, and a lot of people are disconnected from that. So
mm.
it can take practice because when people have anxiety, they're outside of their body. Like their energy has kind of left the body and they're more in their mental body and
Right.
they're obsessed, with thinking or they're and so I like for people to try to get into the body more and begin to feel this is how we can learn to trust because we cannot trust our mind. And
Mm,
so uh, it can take time and it's connected to the things I was saying about communicating with the higher self or receiving messages from the higher self and the body too. So there are all of these ways we can combine them in a way. Like another way is in dreams. Ask a question before you go to sleep to your soul. Some people like to talk to their guides too,
mhm.
or God, or your angels, whatever resonates with you. Ask that level of your being, or, and just say, show me in a dream the answer to my question. And then it can happen that people remember the dreams and the messages, and then you practice that waking up. But learning to trust is yourself is all of these different things we've been talking about and practicing it. Because remember in the beginning of when I was talking about this, that little voice that we sometimes don't listen to, start listening to that, even if you don't understand why. Trusting that the more you practice it, the more you're proving to yourself that it's real, that it's guiding you. And it, like I said, it can take years to develop these skills. And it's just a matter of, dedicating yourself to testing it out. And then when we have a decision to make, tune in. What is your heart telling you? What is your inner voice telling you? Not like the mind, it's the mind, but it's not the anxious mind, worried mind, fearful mind. It's the more of what do I really want? What's good for me?
Mm.
And it might not make sense to people outside of you. It might not make total logical sense to you, but if it keeps nudging at you, I mean, even recently
Yeah.
I something like this happened where
Yeah.
I wanted to do something, but outsiders were saying no, it's not possible. And I understood them and why they said that, and they were kind of right, but my soul wouldn't be quiet about it.
Can you share what that was?
Sure, I will.
Okay.
So I wanted to buy a house. And
Oh,
because I'm self-employed,
okay.
and my son is in college, he's on aid. He has his university is $93,000 a year,
Oh, wow.
but I only pay 3,000 a year because he's very smart. So they got him in on this aid, and his aid is
Oh,
based on my income. And because I work for myself, I could just put all these business expenses, and deduct so that I show almost no income.
okay. Nice.
Well, and it's all legitimate because I do work for myself and I
Yeah.
just went ahead and bought things for my business so that I could serve my clients, but so that he could have a
Right.
lower, tuition. So I wanted to buy a house, but the mortgage loan officers told me you can't. They would ask for my tax returns and I would send them and they would say, you show practically no income. You cannot buy a house. And I was like, oh, darn it, you're right. I have to wait a few years to build that up.
Right.
But my soul kept saying, no, buy a house now, every day, nonstop, constantly. And I tried one more time. And this mortgage lender said, oh, you can do what's called a bank statement loan. And so we're not looking at your taxes. We're going to look at your income for your bank statements for the past 2 years.
Ah,
And I thought, good, you're going to see how much money I actually make. So I bought a house about a week ago at the
yay! Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. So my soul would not stop pushing me to do it, even though on the outer world it looked like impossible.
That's amazing. I
Yeah.
love
So
it.
people do need to listen to this nudging that won't go away and trust. Trust themselves, trust the knowing. It takes time, it takes practice.
Yeah.
Even against all odds, even when people say it's not possible.
Yeah.
We have to start believing in ourselves more and believe that miracles can happen on this
Yeah.
plane of
Right.
existence.
Yeah. I love it. Amazing. I love that story. And congratulations. I hope that you're having a great time in your new house and,
It's a dream come true. I've always wanted to live near the beach, and now I can walk to the beach.
oh, that's
I
amazing.
really can't even believe it.
That's amazing. I love it.
Thank you.
Um, so the other thing that I think people now are in this kind of there's so much chaos in the world and people are really tuning in and asking themselves, what is my purpose? And I think we've always wanted to know what our purpose is, but I think more now it's becoming like, it's important because we're seeing, just a lot of shifts in huge like academia and just politics and all of these in government, and so people are really wanting to shift into what their purpose is or what they're supposed to be doing. How can people tap into that and figure that out and take steps to get closer to finding that
Right. There
answer?
are some different levels to purpose. And when this is also the other most common question that clients ask me,
Hmm.
what is my purpose? And when they get into the soul state, whether it's through hypnosis or whether I'm channeling their soul, people's life purpose comes down to what we could call the virtues: to love more, be forgiving, tolerance, patience, non-judgment, perseverance. These are inner qualities and inner challenges. So, whatever a person is struggling with, if they have anger or hatred or judgment or unforgiveness or a lack of love towards a person or a situation that has happened to them, it's signaling wherever you have like the biggest challenge or the most difficulty, it's signaling where your work is. That's your life purpose.
Okay.
Yes, a soul, when we get into these deep states, whether it's in a life between lives hypnotherapy session where the person's in their soul state, or if I'm, asking the soul for the client, what is the purpose? The soul will always explain one of these themes. You're
Hmm.
supposed to be more loving. You're supposed to be more forgiving. You're supposed to be less judgmental, or, develop self-love or self-worth, or um, kindness, and so people are seeking, am I supposed to write that book? Am I supposed to change this job? Am I supposed to get married to this person? Am I supposed to live over here? Am I supposed to like work for myself? So they have this idea that their life purpose is something in the outer world that's more tangible, but it's really not. Coming from the soul doesn't really care that much about that. Those are just avenues to get through life, to get satisfaction, to maybe accomplish things. But the real work is, what are the feelings that are happening? what's my mental state, my emotional state? How are my relationships with others? It always comes down to relationships with others because this is where we demonstrate our character. This is how
Yes.
our character shows up or how we are affected by
Mhm.
others. And so this is the real work of our soul. And that's really what life purpose is about.
I love that. I love that. And some people may think, okay, life purpose is, I'm supposed to be a painter, an artist, or, programmer. And, just being yourself, and tuning into that and the energy
Yes,
and
and
other people. People don't that you don't realize it's about other people.
right, but everything you just said matters so much because a soul calling too matters because if you're working at a desk and you're or with computers
Oh,
and
yeah.
you're longing to do a
Yeah.
be and
Yeah.
your higher
Right.
self and your thoughts every day are like I wish I were painting right now.
Yeah.
You have got to shift it and move into your
Right.
heart's calling because if you don't, you will get sick. That's
Yeah.
why people get sick, one of the reasons. And it happened to me. Um, I mean,
Right.
I got very, very sick and I was fighting for my life. I was bedridden for 6 months
Oh my
because I was
gosh.
not on my soul's path. This was in the year 2000, 2001, when all of
Okay.
that stuff went down, which, that's part of the story. But I had to get into alignment with my soul, which was to become a healer. But I had been working, like I said, in corporate America.
Uh-huh.
So and remember I said I really want to help people at a deep level. That was my transition. But
Yeah.
before that, and I got very sick. I got adrenal fatigue, but it almost
Wow.
killed me. So what you said is very important. What should I be doing? It matters. I'm not discounting it as not being part of people's life purpose, but when a soul responds to that question, it's more of those internal things. But we
Hmm.
must follow our calling also, which is part
Yes.
of soul's
Yeah.
calling
Yeah.
to satisfy
Hmm.
it's all connected. You know,
Yeah.
what we're here to do
Yeah.
matters. Um,
And the journey, it's like it's all perfect. You're from
yes.
the DC area and I lived in the DC area for a long time. And I was a government employee in the intelligence community. And at the beginning of my journey there, it was very exciting. I learned a lot of things and da da da. But then as I started to awaken spiritually, it just wasn't working. I started to become drained. And
Yes,
it just wasn't,
drain.
I was completely drained and
Oh my gosh.
it was like soul sucking, really.
That's what happened to me. It was
Yeah.
the same. The
Yeah.
adrenal fatigue is
Yeah.
really a draining of energy. It's a
Yes.
all that it is.
Yeah.
And same thing, I
Yeah.
couldn't get out of bed. I was
Yeah.
going to work late every day. It was
Mm.
a horrible experience. And it was my soul telling me stop. But I
Yeah.
didn't know that yet until my awakening a few months later.
Right.
And then you don't really know the full picture until you heal and look back at
Right.
what all that
Yeah.
story meant. And the
Yeah.
story was I wasn't connected to God. I wasn't connected to my soul. I wasn't listening to my heart. I had to have really big wake up calls for all of
Mm.
that to open
Mm.
and to start happening. And I
Right.
remembered I had traveled, backpacked through Italy for 3 months in 1998. And I spent a month in Florence studying Italian. And there was a priest in my language class who was studying Italian to go live at the Vatican for his priesthood training.
Wow.
And yes,
The
he was
Vatican. Wow.
right, the Vatican. I had a few people like that in my class,
Wow.
my Italian class. It was very interesting to see these people from different countries. This man happened to be American, but there were
Uh-huh.
people around the world who were studying the Italian language to go live at the Vatican to be a priest. It was interesting.
That's
So this one American man, we were out at a cafe after class one day with some classmates, and he asked me about God, and I said, I don't believe in God. I'm telling this to a priest.
oh.
And he said, Stephanie, bad things are going to happen to you.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And
What
I didn't,
is-
I, I didn't believe him. I was very cordial
Hmm.
with him. I just didn't believe him. But you know what? He was right. I don't believe in religion, but he was right. Bad things happened. Bad. It was all part of the plan.
It's right.
But I went through challenges and I
Right.
had to because God
Right.
was like knocking on my head, wake up, wake up. And I did. I woke up, but I almost died.
And I feel like that's part of the journey. It's almost like a part of us has to die. Like, I am such a completely different person than that person that was working in the government,
Yes.
intelligence community. I'm a completely different person. So it's almost like that part has to die in order for like this other part of us to emerge. So
100.
yeah,
Isn't
yeah,
that amazing? It's a
it is amazing.
transformation.
Yeah, transformation. Yeah.
People say people don't change. That is not true.
And it's
People
like,
change massively.
and just when you think, okay, I've got it, it's like, no, there's another shift. Yeah.
Yes,
We're always evolving, in one way or another. I love it. Yeah.
yes, throughout life.
Yeah. Well, your journey is amazing and your story and your gifts. I just love the way you serve the world and people. What's a great way that people can get a hold of you if they want to work with you?
Well, my website would be the best way. It's
Okay.
stephaniekraft.com.
Okay, wonderful. And I know you were going to share an offering, a freebie, so we'll put
And
the link to that below. Do you want to
it's
describe what it is?
it's a healing journey. It's an audio download. It's a guided meditation slash hypnosis
Okay.
journey through healing your inner child, healing your body, just a full overall healing, and connecting with your higher self or soul. It's guided, so it's very relaxing. I have people tell me like, "Oh, I listen to your voice every night when I'm going to sleep."
Oh, it's
Anyway,
amazing.
people listen to it over and over again. So that's what I have to give away.
That's great. I'm so excited. I want to do that and I want to practice what you said. Like when I get up in the morning, ask, what should I do about this situation? I want to do that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for this interview. This is amazing. I love your energy. I love what you do in the world and the world really needs you and your gifts right now. So thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you
Stephanie.
so much. And thank you for doing this summit. You're doing what the world needs too. Thank
Thank
you.
you. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. So, yeah, let's get moving for the next